Hey everybody, this is Josh Runquist here for Heavy Debriefings, and I just had to reschedule an interview because my speakers blew out and died. I have not been able to make this video over the last few days because I was in band camp on social media over the last few days and haven't been able to promote this video the way it should have back on Friday, so I'm recording it now for All Hallows Eve and to finally talk about the top 10 albums of October 2023. This will also be my last top 10 albums of the month list that I do, but more information about that will be here at the end of the video. Starting things off is the band Blood Red Hourglass with How's the Heart, and this is the biggest departure the band has ever done. Of course, they've always been known for their mellow death sound, their thrash metal sound, and occasionally quite a doomy sound, but this time around they decided to spread their wings a little bit more and venture more into the modern metal realms. There's some EDM moments going on here, definitely a lot of electronics going on in moments, but it still has that classic Blood Red Hourglass feel behind it as well, which is a touch that's really hard to be able to make both sides happy, and I feel like they've done a magnificent job with that. Fantastic production and songwriting, it's the catchiest album they put out to date, and I really hope this brings a lot of new ears to the band. If this is the direction they're going to be going onward, I'm quite happy with it. Perfect blend of modern metal and melodic death metal, and if that sounds like it's something for you, you should check this out. Next up, I have the band Carn with Necromantia, and this is quite a departure for the band as well, especially when you look at their previous album, Graveside Confessions, which was like straight up old school deathcore. This album does seem to go into the lines of more of like Lorna Shore or of Sulphur, where they're really diving into the symphonic elements this time around. For the first time really in the band, the whole album really features symphonic deathcore, which I know a lot of people consider to be trendy and trend hopping, but I think it makes the genre a whole lot more listenable to someone like me when you add symphonics over something that's so simplistic like deathcore. And with that said, I think the songs really benefit from the symphonics, and this is easily one of the best Carn albums to date. And if you want to see what symphonics can really do to a deathcore sound, I think this is one of the better examples of all of it, so you should really give this one a shot if you want to see what all the hubbub is about. Next up, I have the band Head with Wings with their sophomore album, Without Intervention. Of course, this was mixed, mastered, produced, and orchestrated by the busiest man in rock and metal, Vikram Shankar. But of course, the rest of this East Coast prog alternative band put out the rest of this in a very non-linear storytelling concept album that continues on from the previous album, EP, and stuff to look forward to in the future. It has that great blend of modern and classic progressive rock, but it's as catchy as 90s and 2000s alternative rock at the same time. Not a combination for everybody, especially everyone checking out this channel, but I think it is something that if you're open-minded to the world of progressive rock, you'll find something to really, truly enjoy here. And if you are more of a radio mainstay, and you want to see what prog is all about, I think this could be a great introduction into all of that as well. And of course, magnificent production and songwriting, everything is fantastic about this album. And I think it's definitely one that might go under a lot of radar for a lot of people, but that's why I'm talking about it. This album deserves to be heard by as many people who want to give it a chance. Next up, I have the band Lalo, which is, of course, the solo project of Vivian Lalo, with the album The Fish Who Wanted to Be King, which also, for you prog rock fans out there, features Damian Wilson on vocals. This is a complete and utter throwback to those classic times of the 70s and early 80s progressive rock. So if you're looking for something from like Yes and Genesis and Gentle Giant, I think this is definitely something that you would enjoy. And there's enough modern touches within the music, so it's not a complete throwback. It definitely fits in 2023, especially lyrically and conceptually. I think this is something that you could really enjoy if you're looking for that throwback, classic progressive rock sound, but just updated enough to satisfy those needs. And don't necessarily feel too comfortable with Lalo making this sound, because in an interview that we did earlier this month, he did talk about how he wanted to make an extreme metal album at some point, because his earlier work was much more on the heavier side. And that might be under the Lalo name, that might be under something else, but you know, at least for the time being, if you love that classic prog sound, this is for you, but things might be changing in the future. Next up, I have guitarist Michael Abdo with his brand new instrumental album, Seance in Black. And before you give me any crap about how it's not spelled right on here, the font that I use makes the slash over the E appear way bigger than everything else, so rather than have everyone point that out, I just made it a regular E. Calm down. Now, for this may be the only instrumental album that actually cracks my top 100 albums of 2023, which is so funny to think about because years ago I used to have so much more instrumental music, and I guess I kind of just moved on from it for the most part, but it's albums like this that make me truly appreciate the instrumental world. It's the right amount of flash, it's the right amount of shred, and it's the right amount of musicality that really cares about the songs that Michael wants to make sure that everything fits together nice and neat. In an interview that I did with him, I described how I feel like this is really a night album that feels like it's supposed to be on a cold fall evening, and of course here in Minnesota we're getting plenty of those right now, with the last few days being below freezing. So this is definitely a good thing to conjure up some spirits too. But in all sincerity, I truly enjoy this album from start to finish. I love the versatility of this album, yet it all fits together so very well. And if you want a really good instrumental progressive rock album, there's not much better you can do than the brand new album from Michael Abdo. Next up, we have the legendary Ronnie Atkins with his third solo album, Trinity. And this is one of the most inspiring albums that I've heard in 2023, if not longer. This, of course, is the third solo album from Ronnie Atkins, who has been trying to put out as much music as possible lately due to the fact that he's going through his second round of lung cancer, and he is at stage 4. But looking at him, hearing him, seeing him live, you would never guess it, because he's living the best life that he possibly can right now, working with some of the best musicians in the world, and creating some of the best music that he's ever done. And Trinity is no exception to that whatsoever. The songs are so positive, it brings a tear to your eye when you realize everything that he's going through and he still has that positive outlook on life. And it might even change you too. I mean, if you're dealing with some hard stuff right now, this is definitely an album to throw on, and it might change your perspective on things. But yeah, again, fantastic songs, fantastic musicianship, and of course, the magnificent voice of Ronnie Atkins. What else could you possibly ask for? Next up, I have the UK band Valard with The Weight of the Mask, the heavily anticipated album from their previous album, When I Die Will I Get Better. This album is the first album to be on Nuclear Blast Records for the band, and it totally has all of the emotions that you expect from the band, very diverse songwriting, and of course that great blend of black gaze, post-hardcore, and so many other great elements to really make this album shine above the rest. With lyrics that really hit home if you're dealing with mental health struggles, if you're dealing with life in general, there is something here for you lyrically to really help you out, kind of in the way that I just talked about Ronnie Atkins, but from a completely different perspective. This is going to be super high on my top 100 albums of 2023, and there's a good reason for that. It really deserves to be known as one of the best albums of 2023. Next up, I have the Italian power metal band Temperance with Daruma's Eyes Part 2. And this features a new lineup featuring the vocal ability of Kristen Starkey, being able to cover some magnificent range on this album, and finally getting to be a part of an amazing power metal band like Temperance. Of course, this does a Dream Theater where Daruma's Eyes was just a single song, and then they decided to do a whole concept album around the idea, just like Dream Theater did with Metropolis, and then eventually Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory. And this album is fantastic. It is so unbelievably catchy. It's got amazing guest vocalists on here. I mean, you never would have expected Arjen Lucassen to be able to be doing some storytelling on this album, but you hear that here in spades. And again, the production on here is fantastic for the sound. Everyone sounds so full and complete, and it is easily one of the best power metal albums of 2023. If you don't believe me, just check it out yourself. Up next is the legendary band with only 2 albums, but I think they're going to be going down as a legendary band, Twin Temple with God is Dead. If you're not familiar with the band, well, just check out the For Fans Of section right below here, with their signature sound, satanic doo-wop. That's right, your grandparents' music was truly the devil's music, it was never heavy metal. And this proves it between both albums that they've done. Their debut was fantastic, but I truly love what's going on here with the variety that really is on display with God is Dead. Everything from satanic orgies to black magic, to just true love of Lucifer. Everything is here in spades. I love everything that goes on with this album, from the mono sound to really enhance that 50s, 60s doo-wop sound. And it's just a couple in love, in a throuple with Satan. What more could you possibly ask for? This is a fantastic album, and probably the only non-rock or metal album that will make my top 100 list, but it is more than deserving to be on the list. And finally, I have the band Wavefarer with American Gothic. Another huge departure for the band as they really start to explore more of that North American folk metal side, incorporating more Americana, country, a little bit of bluegrass going on with their very dark folk metal, black metal, death metal sound, and it just combines into some ethereal joy that you just can't find anywhere else. Of course, I do love this genre. There's bands like Necromantia and Panopticon that I love so very much, but Wavefarer is making the argument for being the best in this style, with some of the best production in the style, some fantastic songwriting, and just really paints the picture of the Western United States of America. Everything that you're looking for in this style is here, and if you've never heard of this style before, be prepared for that whiplash of country and black metal combined. It may sound so strange on paper, but in its execution, it's some of the darkest music out there. And there you go, folks. My final top 10 albums of the month list is concluded with the top 10 albums of October 2023. What did you think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did I leave some stuff out? Do you just want to give me crap for my own personal opinion? Let me know down below. And of course, as I just mentioned, this is the last top 10 albums of the month list I will be doing, because in 2024 we're going to be going in a different direction. I've decided that doing this every month is not really the way to go. I'm covering 10 albums, which is great, but I feel like there's a different way I could do this and do it better. So, I'm doing it weekly. That's right, starting sometime in January, I will be doing the best albums of the week. And if there's any albums that I check out that came out prior to that week, I will be including that in the list as well, for albums I missed out on, and talk about the current albums of that week. That'll be coming out every Friday starting sometime in January. And I might, just might, be doing it every single week. Although I might cut it off in November and December, because I still want to continue doing the top 100 albums of 2023. We'll see what happens around this time next year. And until the next video, for Heavy Debriefings, this is Josh Runquist saying, see ya.